Welcome back to Suns Valley Podcast, everybody. We got a very special guest, credentialed media member, Brendon Kleen in the house. Sundo, be appropriate.
Er,
All right, act like a professional if you can.
It's not me. It's
That's
not
true.
me that you need to worry about. It is you, sir.
Very true. Very fair. Brendon, great to have you. Can I just start with this, man? So we're going to mostly probably talk the draft because that's what's ahead of us. But I can't help but just ask you, a few days have passed since the KD trade. Where are you at with that right now? Have you moved your feelings at all? Have they stayed the same from when it happened? And then also, second part of that question is, where are you at mentally with Jalen Green being on the Suns, and has that moved?
Just you're taking a shot to my heart and my soul right away. Yeah, I mean, look, no, it hasn't changed much. I'm still not super loving anything that happened on Sunday. Here's my thing: is the best I can say is it's probably incomplete, right? Like, I'm willing to withhold judgment until we see what happens on Wednesday night with the draft. If they get somebody at 10 that I like and can get excited about, obviously I will feel a whole lot better because I think that is the center and the bottom line of the trade is that pick. And with Green, look, like if they can get rid of Bradley Beal, I think we're all going to look at this and say the fit, the potential, everything clicks better. So I'm hopeful that they have a plan up their sleeve to at least do that, in which case, but I talk myself into Green if they can space the floor a little better than he had in Houston, give him some real reps next to another lead guard in Devin Booker, and I don't know, just pump him up a little bit rather than having him be on the outs the whole time like he was the past couple of years in Houston. Could he look a little better? Could he improve? Sure. And then again, we're getting the incomplete a little bit closer to better than we felt on Sunday. But at the end of the day, I just keep coming back to the fact that it might sound stupid, but it might sound insignificant even too. But how do you not negotiate for some of the smaller stuff, the little sweeteners that make a fan base get excited, right? Like when the Blazers stole Tumani Kamara and we were all ripping our hair out. How do you not get the Cam Whitmore and make that your Tumani Kamara in the DH? How do you not get another pick of theirs, first rounder, even if it's not your own in the 2027 or 2029 drafts that they obviously wanted? Or, hey, you're not even going to play Reed Shepherd. We just read on Twitter you're about to extend Fred VanVleet. Why don't you give us the other Fred VanVleet you already have who's not playing, and we'll see if he can get some minutes here. It's those little things that I feel like they were not able to get that make me the most frustrated.
I mean, he just said everything that basically, not that I've been saying, but I've been thinking because I've been trying to be positive about the trade as much as possible just because, hey, we got the 10th overall pick. We got Brooks. I personally like Green. I don't know about the fit. I feel like with Jordan Knight, he'll figure out how to make it work and he'll figure out how to make it fit. But yeah, I do. There's also a part of me that feels like, man, you probably could have gotten more. And yeah, I'm with him on that one. But also just trying to stay positive. I do think the 5 second-round picks were big. I do feel like they're going to use those somewhere down the road, hopefully to offload Beal somewhere. That's what I hope the strategy is there. But you can't help but have that feeling like you could have gotten a little bit more, another first or another young player, 100%.
I think, at least speaking for myself personally, I underestimated how much control Kevin Durant would truly have in the situation. But I'm trying very hard not to be salty about it and not to be upset about it, because this is exactly how he got his way to Phoenix. And I was not salty and I was not upset about it then. I should have seen this coming. Say what you will about, oh, we went behind his back halfway through the season or at the trade deadline. Yes, that's true. Even if we didn't, and this is no shot at KD, I think this is what you earn when you're a player of his status, of his magnitude. You earn the right to be able to throw your weight around and finish your career where you want to finish it. I just don't think that even if we had treated him with kid gloves the way he might prefer to be treated or feels he deserves to be treated, I still think he would have orchestrated behind the scenes to get where he wanted to go. Spurs, Miami, or the Rockets. He would have done it. That's what he did to come to us. Eventually, after weeks of working with the Nets to get them something good, because he was good enough to them and good enough to us to do that, behind the scenes, eventually, he let it be known, no, Minnesota, I will not come to you. No, Raptors, don't even bother. Things like that.
You mentioned the deadline. And I've been harping on that too, just because I think it definitely affects, even if it doesn't change like the value or the leverage or any of that sort of stuff in the negotiation, which I'm not sure if it does or doesn't. It definitely affected everybody's mindset. You know what I mean? Would he have been more willing to play ball if he hadn't felt so blindsided and disrespected by them in February and not been so putting his, thumb on the scale or whatever people say to really get it how he wanted it to be? I think there's a case to be made that if they don't piss him off in February, he might have been a little bit more easy to deal with. But at the same time, too, you go even back further than that. And to me, part of what I've been wondering about, like an alternate reality, would be last October, right, where we thought he was going to extend, and they didn't do that. I'm not saying maybe there was no way KD ever would have signed that extension last year because of the way that the previous season had ended, getting swept and not gelling with Beal and Vogel and the new additions the way that they had hoped. But I just can't help but wonder too, like, well, what if, a better relationship, a more, I don't want to say capable, but because that sounds a little crazy, but if there's another world where he does extend, then these whole trade talks are very different because he kind of can't use his leverage anymore because he doesn't have as much leverage because he's under contract for way longer. And it doesn't matter if he won't extend in Minnesota or Toronto or anywhere else because there's no extension to be part of the whole thing. So it felt like everything really just led up to this. And that's part of why I don't think you can really be too upset with what they got back, because it was just a matter of flush the toilet on this whole era and try to get as much as you can, salvage it, move forward. And again, like, that's why I am excited about 10. Like, I think this draft will be able to produce a player at number 10 that we all can watch at Summer League, watch next year as a rookie, who Book can get excited about, that Ott can develop, and that this team can say, okay, at least we got this from that whole nightmare. You know what I mean?
That's a great point. Before we get into the 10th, and I'm really excited to talk draft, maybe a couple more little questions. So the Blazers get Drew Holiday. They've now traded Damian Lillard and Anthony Simons for Drew Holiday in the course of 3 seasons. Pretty insane. I'm asking you this, and it's going to sound like a kind of a dumb question probably, but I've gotten this question a couple of times from some viewers on other videos. They're saying, hey, can the Suns go after Drew Holiday? So what do you think about that?
Portland's going to keep him, seems like. So it's funny to think that they were in such a hurry to offload him in that first situation, but they've developed, their guys are more ready to win. They got Denny Avdia, Scoot finally turned a corner. Hopefully Shaedon Sharpe can stay healthy and everything else. So I just think the Blazers are going to keep him. But I mean, I was more interested from the Suns standpoint, the Porzingis side. And then right as we were about to sit down for this, then he got traded. But to me, I want the Suns that big man hole is pretty problematic for them right now. So, I mean, Holiday would have been nice, but we all would have just been making the too many shooting guards joke again if the trade came down for him probably. Whereas any big man they acquire now, I think we're all just going to be celebrating because they need it so bad.
Then let's go straight into that first with the draft. Obviously, the Suns need a starting caliber big man. I love Oso. Sundo loves Oso. We both have a man crush on Nick Richards. It's not about that. This isn't a Plumlee situation where we're desperate to get rid of someone. We just probably need to add a starter, a clear-cut starter. Between Malawak and Thomas Sorber, do you see either of them being able to fill that role as a starter?
Now or in the future? I think that's the question, right? I mean, I think both guys could be starting NBA centers. Like, to me, like that's the thing that I think is almost worth saying when you're talking about, especially the draft when it comes to bigs right now in the NBA, is it's about options, right? It's about looks. You got to have multiple different things that your big man rotation is going to be able to do. $30 million on Isaiah Hartenstein, and due to their culture and his humility, I think you would have to say, and then their coaching staff being creative with it, there's games and entire series where that dude wasn't even like a big fixture of how they were going to play. But then sometimes, like when you're playing Nikola Jokic, yeah, Hartenstein's going to be out there for 30, 40 minutes a night because you need it. So to me, like, if I'm talking about Malawach or Sorber or, any of the other guys we could bring up, it don't have to be your full-time when you get to the playoffs playing 38 minutes every single game fixture of your team. They just have to be able to do something for you at a really high level. And I think both of those guys, to me, are very, they're big, they're long, they're athletic, they're both pretty agile. Like, they both move well, which is important in the league right now. So I think you could tell me those guys are a Daniel Gafford type player, a Clint Capella type player, guys we've seen even in the modern NBA be able to hold up and make an impact. And I would totally believe it. So you probably still need a spacer throw out there at times. You probably need a switch defender or something, like different things you can piece together, but they don't have to do all that today, and they don't have to do all that even this summer. But I think both those guys are really good options if the Suns go that direction to be part of that group long term for sure.
He hit the point that I was, we talked about in our video, which is, hey, I don't know if these guys would be immediate starters. You know what I mean? Like they'll have to develop. It's not going to be a guy you can draft and just plug and play. Like this isn't the first overall pick when we had DA, where we thought DA was just going to start immediately, which he did. But like it's not going to be that situation. So yeah, these guys are going to take time to develop. So I don't see any of these guys being an immediate starting savior. We're still going to have to probably roll with Richards and Oso for a while until these guys develop. Like, and as he said, it also is going to depend on the matchups.
Which one do you like more between those two?
Between those two, I'm Malawak. If it's between those two, it's definitely Malawak. I just that size. I think that his shooting ability can be improved on, and just the size and the agile. His ability to move at 7'2", 250 is. I think you can't teach that. You just can't. You can't teach that sort of athleticism at that size. So yeah, that would be the one that I would want for sure. But again, I still see holes in his game where he will have to develop, to be able to play in the NBA game. And who knows how long it's going to take? A year, 2 years? I don't know. So I wouldn't expect him to be a starter immediately. We're still going to have to roll with Richards or maybe even sign somebody in free agency if you want a starting center. But between those two, definitely Malawak for sure.
I think reasonable fans like us don't mind that it'll take a year or two. We're okay with that timeline. We've accepted that. I don't know that Matt Ishbia has accepted that. That's key. Right? He seems to be stuck in no man's land where he doesn't know what he wants. Well, he knows what he wants. He wants to compete. That's not going to happen. I'm almost glad that the trade we got from the Rockets is what it is, because it kind of forces, I hope, him to recalibrate and realize, look, man, you're not competing right now. Stop trying. Embrace at least 2 years of a rebuild. And so I'm okay with it. You guys are okay with it, but will Matt Ishbia be okay with drafting someone that he doesn't think he can plug and play and get us back into the playoffs?
I was gonna say, you bringing that scenario scares me, because like what if they end up trading the 10 overall pick for a player? You know what I mean? Like, you bringing up that scenario just makes me feel like that's possible. Now, do I think it's going to happen? We got a day before the draft? Probably not, but you bringing that up does make me feel like that's possible. So thanks for that.
I think the other guy to bring up, though, in terms of being, the reaction or the perception that people in that building have to the draft is Book, right? But I think on the other end of it, I think Book is smart enough and knows people well enough and everything else. Like, if you've just tracked how he's reacted to the different rookies that have come through over time, he can see talent and potential and focus and the things that guys need to succeed in the NBA, even if they don't jump off the screen and produce immediately, right? So, like, I don't want people, even though we know there's pressure to keep Book happy and committed. For this year, we're good, I think. But especially starting next summer, it's kind of a ticking clock, I think, almost every single year until they're back into title contention. I think you can still draft a guy, and even if he's not awesome immediately, Book's going to be okay with that, right? So, like, I think that's kind of the bar. They can't be so raw, in my opinion, that they can't even play next year, which is where I start to get worried about, like, Carter Bryant, for instance, who just didn't really produce a lot, even though he was on the court in college. Like, somebody like that makes me a little nervous, or some of these dudes who just have, like, no jumper, no offensive game at all, they would worry me. Maybe more of those guys are at 29 than 10, but I guess that's what I'm saying. Like, Ishbia is just going to be like, what can we do to win? I think Book will have more patience, and so as long as Ishbia can get his head out of his you-know-what, then I feel like we don't have to worry about a guy coming in here and just hitting the ground running. Because I don't think that's what this draft is. I think it's a lot of guys who need to get better over time.
So I picked those two bigs because I was watching Locked On. By the way, everybody, subscribe to Locked On. You gotta get Locked On the Suns, okay? You and Ben were talking about Sorber and Malawak. Do you have a choice between those two? Are those the only two bigs you want, or is there someone else, if the Suns go big, that you want?
I would prefer Malawak as well out of those two guys. I just like that he's bigger. I mean, I'm not even going to, be any more deep about it than that. I just think he's 7'1", and that's bigger than 6'9". So
that's without shoes.
Yeah.
So he's
Like,
truly probably
and
a 7'3", 7'2.5".
you're talking, Rudy Gobert, Mark Williams in Charlotte. It's about it in terms of the guys in the league that are that big. You can't really replace that. So, like, people talk about his screening. It is weak right now. He doesn't set physical screens. Like, it's weird to watch almost because he is so big, and then he just doesn't make great contact. There's just those little things of his game that Sundo was mentioning too, where like, yeah, it's going to have to come along over time, and he drops some passes and turns the ball over, things like that. But yeah, he'd be my guy. In terms of the other ones, though, like I know a lot of people are excited about Derek Queen, and today there was a report that the Suns have looked at him as well as Danny Wolf. Those guys just worry me because talking about a first-time head coach, I think he's going to be a good coach. I feel optimistic about it, but it is a first-time head coach, a roster that's going to be changing probably all throughout the season. You know what I mean? If they don't trade Grayson now, he'll be in talks through February. Like, it's just going to be a rotating cast of people around him. A bunch of pressure to, with the book situation and the noise around whatever this franchise drama that keeps following this team around. I just think you need a really it's tough for me to get excited about bringing a long-term project type of guy into that situation. And anyone that, these draft guys are telling us is very situation dependent. I don't know if the Suns are that situation right now, just because there's so much in flux. I don't think it's a bad situation. I just don't even know what the Suns situation is. So it's like, that's not as safe as Oklahoma City, for instance, bringing that type of guy in. Of course, I trust the Thunder to turn him into something. But so Queen is just raw, and there's questions about how he's handled the pre-draft process and that kind of thing. Raw in terms of like, how does he affect the game? What's his role? What's his archetype in the league? Not just raw physically or something, but like that stuff, got to figure it out over time. And then same with Wolf. Like, I think that there's a world where Danny Wolf is just like, I tweeted this right before we got on. Like, he's Poku to me. He's like a circus player almost, where it's like, I don't even mean that disrespectfully. I just mean that in a way of like, you watch him and it looks like it's a YMCA game out there in a good way a lot of the time because he dominates. But also it's like, well, what's that going to look like when it's not, dudes that are 3 years younger than him in the Big Ten, but it's LeBron or whatever, So does he block as many shots if he's actually having to play an NBA level of athlete? Does he, can he get away with the crazy passes looking like he's playing and one? Like, I don't know. So those two would make me really nervous. I would kind of prefer the more traditional dudes for that reason.
With Wolf, do you see him hypothetically? Because I see a lot of Suns fans clamoring for Wolf. So I did some research on him last night. I like what I see. I feel bad admitting that now because he's fun. He's fun. He like top end. I don't think
I'm not
he ever.
an expert, right?
Well, top end, I see him getting unlikely. He's going to get this good, but I just see almost like the potential for a little bit of like Franz Wagner. Like, he's not as skinny as Poku, so Poku didn't run through my mind. But you are right. It is that style. I think if he was the best he could ever be, I could maybe see a Franz Wagner. My question is, do you see him as a power forward or a center? Because they've got him listed as small forward / power forward on the Anthro.
I don't think he can play center in the NBA, no. Even as one of those spacing options we were talking about before. Obviously, he could shoot it, but I'm not saying he doesn't have the skill set. I just mean he doesn't cross that threshold to me to even be able to defend some centers, backup centers, small center. I don't see it. He's thin. And he's already pretty old, so it's not like you're expecting a ton of development, physically and everything. And he's not like a great athlete, really. Even some of the blocks, like you go through, you watch the highlight reels that some of these draft accounts put together on YouTube, and it's like all the blocks are like he just takes a gamble from the strong side and whacks it into the seats. It's not even like a real basketball play necessarily. You know what I mean? That kind of feels a little bit random, the way that he approaches the game. But again, I'm not an expert. The numbers speak for themselves. He got recruited by Michigan for a reason. He produced. They were a decent team. I don't think he's has no shot to succeed in the NBA. But you talk about like what his role is. I look at these people, who study this stuff. The comps are like, the number one I keep seeing is Hedo Turkoglu. Like, I don't think Hedo Turkoglu could play in the NBA right now. I don't think he could play in this NBA when Jalen Williams is sprinting at full speed down the court in the finals. Like, I don't know if Hedo's cutting it. So Franz is a good one. If he's Franz, of course he could survive because Franz is great right now. But him and Queen are both those two types of guys where the margin is so thin for the difference between them being good in the NBA and them just flaming out completely.
Do you think the Suns need to go big over guard, or are you interested in a guard? Because there's some guys late in the draft, Hanson Yang, Ryan Kalkbrenner. There are some bigs that we could locate at 29 and go after. Do you want to go guard first, or do you want to, or is it wing? I saw on Twitter that you had put of your top 5, or maybe it was top 6, Carter Bryant the lowest. And you made a good point. He wasn't that productive in college. Me and Sundo have been fawning over him, but then the more I'm looking into him, my one question was, why did he average like 6 to 8 points a game in college? Like, what is that? Is that a spacing thing? So guard, center, or are you open to any position?
I would shy away from a guard, but that's almost because I just don't necessarily love a lot of the guys who are guards, if that makes sense. Like, it's not even about the position per se. It's just some of the players you look at in those rankings, and I'm always a little behind on the international guys, which I think we all are because we just don't watch them in the tournament and all that stuff. But I don't know. It's like at 29, it's the Israeli kid, or it's Walter Clayton, who's undersized. I mean, I don't hate either one, but I just don't love it. At 10, it feels like Yakushonis is really, really raw. And so that starts to get to the point where I'm wondering, like, does he play this year? And that doesn't pass my test. I haven't looked into him nearly enough to have a sophisticated opinion, except for raw. So I don't know. But that's why I just would have been leaning. Mostly, I would prefer that they take wings, especially because even if it was Carter Bryant, and that's why I included him. I mean, I still put him in the top 5, even though he's at the bottom of it. I think that the acquisition of Brooks, to me, honestly, allows you to be in a position where you actually can maybe bring in a wing who might take a little longer. I'd like for him to play this year, like I keep saying, but he could take a little longer because now you probably have, you could start Brooks and Ryan Dunn and have that just be your forwards. And then whoever you draft can just come off the bench and you don't have to worry so much. So that's one thing that the Rockets trade did for them. And so I think that would be my preference. And I also, again, I just like those guys better. I like the wings and forwards in this draft. So that's part of why I'm leaning that direction, even just beyond like the positional side of it.
At this point, I don't want them to overthink it. With this 10th overall pick, I would much just take the best available guy that you have, like the best person on your board that you think is the most talented, that will help you out and develop faster. I want you to get that guy. If it's a Carter Bryant, then so be it. If it's Malawak, even this Igor guy from Russia, like if you feel like this is a guy that's the best available, like just take him and move on. Because like we all talk, we don't see us competing, even though, like you said, Ishbia thinks he does, but I don't see us competing. I would much rather just get the best available piece, whoever it is, get them on the court. Anything can help at this point. It's really just Booker and Green, and then anybody else at this point for the team. So get your best available player. And hopefully for me, it's Carter Bryant or Malawak. And still, I don't know about the Yakushonis thing. You think he's raw? Maybe, possibly. I don't know. I think that he would be the perfect kind of point guard that you would want for this team, especially now that you have Booker and Green. He's not gonna be looking to shoot. He's gonna be looking to find guys. So I think, in my opinion, I think at maybe 10, if everybody else is gone, I would take him as well. But I just want best available taken at 10.
I just think with him, like from my general philosophy on the draft, I just think point guards take a minute. I think that, being an international white dude, he's going to need to adjust to the physicality of the league, right? And I know he went to American college. I'm not trying to say he's, like Dragan Bender or something, but I think that that always just is going to take some time. And it seems like role-wise, from what I've seen and read about him, it's like he can play on or off the ball, and that's a benefit, and he's bigger. That's cool. But obviously he didn't make his threes necessarily. So I just think like it might take a little while. His turnovers were high. Like it might take a minute for him to settle into what he's going to be in the NBA, even though, I don't know if he's raw. Like again, he's probably going to be able to play in the league right away, but I don't know if he knows what he is yet. And I would want a guy who I can kind of plug and play a little bit.
Fair enough. I can't argue that, but I just think either way, like any of these guys that we get are going to be, it's going to take some time, no matter who it is at this point, especially at 10. I don't think any of these guys at the 10 position are going to be plug and play immediately starters. Like some of them translate, like Carter Bryant, I believe will translate. Malawak's definitely going to translate with his size. But yeah, I just believe anybody at this point would just be a dude that you're going to have to develop one way or another.
We haven't talked about my favorite guy, and I think he might be one of the dudes I could see playing right away, which is why I keep harping on that side of it, which is Colin Murray Boyles. What do you guys think of him?
Underwhelmed. underwhelmed.
Okay. Here's the deal. No.
Okay.
Here's the deal. It's not that I didn't like him. I just saw Draymond Green whenever I was watching the highlights. Like, that's literally the comp. Like, just frame wise, play style wise. But I mean, he gives a lot of effort. He's underrated as a rebounder. His post moves are underrated as well. I think he would fit. He fits everything that Ott and Ishbia say that they want right now. They want tough players. He definitely fits that. It's not that he was underwhelming. I just saw a lot of Draymond Green, and there just wasn't a lot of flash. And let's be honest, me and Gabe, we're impressed with the flash more so than the substance. So there's always that. But no, I did not like him. It's just I didn't like him more than, say, Malawak or Brian or Yakachonis or anybody like that.
I feel like with him, I didn't see Draymond Green one time. Not one highlight reminded me of Draymond
Julius
Green.
Randle, right?
I see a Julius Randle with less, hopefully, head case issues, less of an anger issues, less of a, hey, it's my turn to score, so I'm pounding the rock until I get a bucket type of guy. But, yeah, not that big, doesn't have a great shot. I guess I just wasn't blown away. Maybe I just need to look into it more.
What about another comp, which is another guy everybody thought was going to be the next Draymond, but Grant Williams, right? He didn't shoot it in college, and then he turned into, all of a sudden, Game 7 against Milwaukee, he's leading them to the finals, bombing threes. Like, I think that's another template for how a guy like that can. He's probably going to have to shoot it a little bit to cut it in the league, but he took enough in college that I don't think he's like hopeless or scared to shoot or anything like that. Shot 71% from the free throw line. That's at least good enough that I feel like there's hope for it. I'm not going to pretend like I know if he's going to shoot or not, but I think that you just look at, like, to me, like, I always look at functional strength, like not only being strong, but being a guy where your strength affects the game. And he's that. Like, he is going to impact every minute he's on the court because he plays hard and because of how big and muscular and physical that he is. So I think he's going to get steals. I think he's going to get offensive rebounds, those types of hustle stats that you want him to get. I've been seeing his interviews. The dude seems to be like, have a really good head on his shoulders and be really self-aware, which I think is huge. Like, if you're this type of guy where you're not tall enough for your position and you can't shoot and all that stuff, and then you still think you're the best guy on the court all the time, that's not a good sign. He seems to have that awareness of what he's going to be in the league. I like that he stayed in college and didn't jump the gun and all that kind of stuff. So I don't know, but that's definitely far and away my top guy at 10. I would love if they came away with him.
If things don't go well as far as the wings we want and the bigs we want get taken before 10, not that all of them, I don't even know if mathematically that's possible. Let's just say it's not looking good at 10 for that. If you had to pick a guard and then go after a big at 29, any guards you can think of? I mean, for me, it's Yakachonis, Igor Demin, and I put Richardson in there just because it's unavoidable at this point because he's from Michigan State. But Richardson's 6 foot and a half, so I would imagine with shoes he's probably a good 6'3". Okay, so it's not the tiniest guy. He shot 41% from 3 in college. That's pretty good. But only 2 assists, 1.9 in fact. I don't want a small guard that is mostly a scorer. Not exciting for me. Igor Demin is 6'8.5", Brendon. 6'8.5" with vision. Of the 3, most assists, 5.5 assists per game. My issue there is he shot 27% from 3. When you look at his jumper, it's actually gorgeous. His jumper, really pretty. NBA jumper. Not a great percentage, though. And then with Yakachonis, he's 6'4" and 3/4", so he's 6'5", basically without shoes, and was shooting 32% from 3 with 4.7 assists. Those 2 are the 2 guards. Is there something I'm missing with those guys?
No, I am not a fan of small guards who are just scorers either. Like, I think that is a dying breed in the league. I think it's not a coincidence that Reed Shepherd and Rob Dillingham were both available to the Suns in theory this summer, despite only getting into the league last year. And they both didn't play last year for their teams who were trying to win games. Like, I just think that is a really hard archetype to fit into. So Jace, to me, Walter Clayton falls into that, even despite the amazing run he had in the tournament. There's just as many examples of that not working. Remember Carson Edwards? We all thought there's no way that dude was going to fail out of that run at Purdue. He never did anything in the NBA, right? Like Isaiah Thomas, the younger one who came through Phoenix, is impressive for a reason. It's hard to do that, and I don't want to bet on that happening with how important these picks are to the Suns. Demon is somewhat intriguing if he falls to 29, just because I think the talent is undeniable, and this is a guy who some people think is a lottery pick. So if he were to be there at 29, I mean, I wouldn't fault the Suns for trying it. He's still fairly young, and his feel and size are there. That is an archetype that's worked in the league before. It works right now. I could totally be talked into that despite the jumper not falling. And again, I like taking them. I like if guys at least take them. So he took 5 a game. Not saying that means he's gonna flip the switch and become a good shooter, but it's not hopeless. So yeah, I'm not opposed to guard. The Suns do need more playmaking on this roster, even if they are keeping Jalen Green, which it seems like they are, because that's not really what he's done so far in his career. But is that really going to come from a rookie anyway? I don't know. So I think if they, based on what the board looks like and based on what this roster looks like, I wouldn't hate any of these guards. They are going to take time. I'm not expecting them to really do anything for the team this year, and that's again why I've kind of leaned away from it. But Demon's interesting. The fact that Kevin Young raves about this dude and that he was able to be, the head of the spear for a really sophisticated college offense that went further than people thought his first season at that program, like that says something to me. So I like that side of it too.
I'm sorry to be so interested in guards. It's just Sundo and we've been feeling like the worst thing that can happen to our team, the thing that could arrest our development the most, is having Bradley Beal, hypothetically, if he somehow stays, Devin Booker and Jalen Green fighting for the starting point guard position. I can't have that. And so that's where my interest comes in. Before we go, is there any other prospects you want us to know about that we can learn about from you?
We've covered everybody that I've looked at. I mean, okay, the one guy we haven't hit that I like a lot is Cedric Howard. I know that the resume is scary. Resume is weird. If you just go on his basketball reference page, it's like, I don't even know what Eastern Washington is. I've never heard of the Big Sky, and he only played 6 games this year.
He was supposed to go to Duke. He had a shoulder injury. He started from the bottom. Now he's here. Okay, he worked his way up from D3 to 2 to 1. Mm-hmm. He gets better. Every year he's getting significantly better. He is a sleeper. Some smart team is going to step up and get a stud. He's not Damian Lillard. He's not the style of player or anything like that. But what it reminds me of is Weber State, this unknown guy that nobody was paying attention to, stepping in and being like, hey, guess what, guys? I'm the truth.
Sure. He has a huge wingspan, 7'2", 7'3" wingspan, almost 9-foot standing reach. He's a big 6'5", so he can play forward to me. His frame's huge, his shoulders, all that stuff that you want to see, even though the height's not quite there. He's physically dominant, and he made his threes. For the whole time, whatever division he was in, he was making threes. That to me, it's like, even if he's just a good 3-and-D player, if you get that at 10, I'm thrilled. Even if the upside's maybe not there, but I mean, you want to get carried away with comps, you can easily throw out a bunch of slow to develop wings who became a lot more than just 3-and-D guys who were drafted around this range. So I don't want to compare him to those dudes because that's a high bar to clear, but I don't think that being unproven always is a bad thing. It can just mean that there's more there. You know what I mean? So I would love if they got him too. I think I put him number 2 on that list I tweeted out.
It's a smart list then. That's a sneaky list.
I just like the dude's story. Like you said, just coming from the bottom and making it like that's character. You know what I mean? And if that's what they're looking for, if they're looking for guys that just are going to work hard and have good character, then what better guy than Cedric Howard? So I like the story, not so much the build, like you said, because I didn't know much about him, but I do like the story for sure.
Brendon Kleen, thank you so much for your time. Thank you for coming on and going over the draft with us. Where can people find you? They know, but let's just go through the motions here.
Locked on Suns on YouTube. Follow me on X at Brendon Kleen 14 if you're over there. And yeah, I'm bouncing around to pop up all over the Suns content world. So keep up, and yeah, we'll hope this off season ends on a better note.
Thanks again. We'll see you guys next time. Thanks for hanging out.